$300 ticket? By the time you pay for your seat, your bag, and a sandwich, you've shelled out $500 before the plane even takes off. Airlines call it ancillary revenue. I call it robbery. And today, I'm exposing the 5 hidden fees that drain your wallet, plus how to beat them. Most passengers get hit with at least 3 of these fees every time they fly, but after this video, you'll never fall for them again. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Airlines now make 20 to 40% of their total revenue, not from selling you that ticket, but from these sneaky add-on charges. We're talking about a massive industry shift that's happened right under our noses. American Airlines alone raked in over $5.5 billion from baggage fees in 2023. That's more money than many entire airlines make from actually flying people around. Think about that for a second. The airline industry has fundamentally changed its business model. They're no longer transportation companies that happen to charge fees. They've become fee-collecting machines that happen to fly planes. And guess who's paying for this transformation? You are. Let me paint you a picture of how this plays out in real life. Take a typical family of 4 planning a domestic vacation. Mom, dad, and 2 kids book what looks like a reasonable flight for $250 per person. That's $1,000 total, which seems manageable for a family trip. But here's where the nightmare begins. They need to sit together because they have young children. That's an extra $25 per seat. They each need a checked bag because it's a week-long vacation. There's another $35 per bag each way. That's $280 just for bags. One of their bags ends up being 3 pounds overweight. Boom! Another $75 penalty. They want to change their return flight by 1 day to extend their vacation. That change fee alone costs them $200, plus the difference in fare prices. By the time this family actually travels, their $1,000 flight has ballooned to over $1,600. That's a 60% markup on what they thought they were paying. And the worst part? None of this was clearly disclosed when they first searched for flights. This brings us to the first hidden fee that's absolutely crushing travelers everywhere: seat selection charges. Airlines have turned something that used to be completely free into a profit center worth billions. They've gotten incredibly sophisticated at this psychological manipulation. Here's how the scam works. When you book your flight, the airline shows you a seat map. Most of the decent seats are colored in a way that suggests they cost extra. The free seats, if there are any, are typically middle seats in the back of the plane or seats that don't recline. The airline is betting that you'll panic and pay anywhere from $20 to over $100 just to avoid being uncomfortable. I talked to a family who flew from Chicago to Orlando last month. They booked tickets for $250 each, thinking they got a great deal. But when they tried to select seats, they discovered that sitting together would cost them an additional $80 per person. Their $250 tickets suddenly became $330 tickets, just so they wouldn't be separated during their 3-hour flight. The airlines use something called anchoring bias to pressure you into these purchases. They'll show messages like "only 2 good seats left" or "limited availability at this price." They're creating artificial scarcity to make you act impulsively. Don't fall for it. Here's the hack that can save you serious money. Wait until 24 hours before your flight to check in. Airlines hold back seats throughout the booking process, but they release most of them for free during online check-in. I've seen families save hundreds of dollars just by being patient and checking in exactly 24 hours before departure. The second fee that's absolutely brutal is baggage charges. This one really gets me fired up because airlines used to include baggage in your ticket price. Now they've stripped it out and are charging you extra for something that should be basic service. Most major airlines charge $35 each way for your first checked bag. That's $70 round trip per bag. If you're traveling as a family, you're looking at potentially $300 or more just to bring your clothes with you. Low-cost carriers have taken this to an extreme, charging $40 to $60 for carry-on bags. Yes, you heard that right. They're charging you to bring a bag on the plane with you. But here's where it gets really predatory. If your bag is even 1 pound over the weight limit, you're hit with an overweight fee that can range from $75 to over $100. I met a traveler at Dallas Airport who was flying Spirit to Las Vegas. Her ticket cost $60, which seemed like an amazing deal. But when she got to the airport, they charged her $55 for her carry-on bag. She paid almost as much for her bag as she did for her seat. The overweight fees are particularly cruel because the weight limits vary by airline, and there's no standardization. What's acceptable on one airline will cost you a fortune on another. Plus, airport scales aren't always accurate. and you have no recourse if there's a discrepancy. Here's how to beat the baggage fee game. First, get an airline credit card that comes with free checked bags. These cards typically have annual fees of around $100, but if you take more than 2 trips per year, you're already saving money. Second, invest in a good luggage scale and weigh your bags at home. Third, pack strategically by wearing your heaviest items on the plane and distributing weight evenly across multiple bags if you're traveling with family. The third hidden fee is perhaps the most infuriating: flight change and cancellation charges. Airlines market flexible tickets, but when you read the fine print, you discover that flexibility comes at an enormous cost. Basic economy tickets, which are often the default option when you search for flights, come with virtually no flexibility. You can't change them, you can't cancel them, and you can't even select your seat in advance. If your plans change for any reason, you're basically stuck with a worthless piece of paper. Even if you buy a regular economy ticket, change fees can range from $75 for domestic flights to over $300 for international travel, and that's just the change fee. You also have to pay the difference in fare if the new flight costs more than your original booking. I spoke with a traveler who booked a $200 United flight but needed to change her dates due to a family emergency. The change fee was $200, plus she had to pay an additional $80 because the new flight was more expensive. She ended up paying $280 to make a change that cost the airline absolutely nothing. She could have bought a brand new ticket for less money. Here's a crucial hack that can save you hundreds of dollars. The federal government requires airlines to allow you to cancel any ticket within 24 hours of booking for a full refund, as long as you book the ticket at least 7 days before departure. This rule applies to all flights departing from or arriving in the United States, regardless of which airline you choose. If you book a flight and then find a better deal, or if your plans become uncertain, you have 24 hours to cancel without any penalty. Airlines are required to offer this, but they don't advertise it prominently. Use this rule to your advantage by booking flights when you find good deals, knowing you have a full day to change your mind. The fourth fee that's absolutely ridiculous is what airlines charge for food and drinks. We've all become accustomed to overpriced airport food, but airlines have taken this to a whole new level of exploitation. On most domestic flights, you'll pay $12 or more for a basic sandwich, $8 for a small bag of snacks, and $3 for a bottle of water. Some airlines are now charging for coffee and tea on flights shorter than 3 hours. Think about that. They're charging you for beverages on a flight that's barely long enough to reach cruising altitude. I was on a 3-hour Delta flight recently and watched a couple spend $46 on 2 sandwiches, chips, and sodas. The same food would have cost them maybe $15 at an airport restaurant and probably $8 at a regular grocery store. The airlines are betting that you'll be hungry and thirsty with no other options available, so you'll pay whatever they're asking. The markup on airplane food is astronomical because they know you're a captive audience. Once that plane door closes, you have no choice but to buy from them or go without. It's price gouging at 30,000 feet. Here's how to beat the food fee trap. Bring an empty water bottle through security and fill it up at a water fountain, or ask a restaurant to fill it for you. Pack your own snacks in your carry-on bag. Granola bars, nuts, fruit, and sandwiches are all allowed through security. You can easily save $30 to $50 per flight just by planning ahead. The fifth and perhaps most deceptive category of fees involves premium services that are disguised as necessary add-ons. Airlines have gotten incredibly creative at inventing new ways to charge you for things that used to be included in your ticket price. Early boarding fees are a perfect example of this psychological manipulation. Airlines charge $15 to $40 for the privilege of getting on the plane a few minutes before other passengers. They market this as a premium service, but really they're solving a problem they created by reducing overhead bin space and making everyone anxious about finding room for their bags. Family seating fees are particularly predatory. Airlines will separate family members during the booking process and then charge you extra to sit together. Frontier Airlines faced significant criticism after families reported paying up to $60 extra just to guarantee sitting with their young children. Phone support fees are another cash grab that's becoming increasingly common. Some airlines now charge you $25 or more just to speak with a human being if you need help with your booking. They're essentially charging you for customer service that should be included in your ticket price. If this is saving you money already, hit that like button. It tells YouTube to push this to more travelers and keeps airlines from getting away with these sneaky tricks. Here's something most people don't know about family seating. The Department of Transportation has issued guidance stating that airlines should make every effort to seat children under 13 next to an adult family member at no extra charge. Airlines are supposed to accommodate these requests during booking or at the gate without additional fees. Don't let airlines pressure you into paying family seating fees if you have young children. Politely insist that they follow DOT guidance and seat your family together. If they refuse, ask to speak with a supervisor and reference the federal guidance on family seating. Here's a bonus tip that most travelers never discover. Airlines use dynamic pricing for seats and upgrades, meaning prices change based on demand and timing. That seat upgrade that costs $100 today might cost $40 tomorrow, or it might cost $150 next week. If you're flexible, you can often get better deals by waiting, but if you need certainty, you're forced to pay premium prices. Airlines also use something I call seat blocking, where they make it appear that good seats are taken when they're actually being held for higher paying customers. This creates artificial scarcity that pressures you to pay for seat upgrades you might not actually need. Now let's come back to that opening scenario. Remember that $300 ticket that ended up costing $450? Here's how that breaks down with the fees we just discussed. $30 each way for seat selection, $60 total, $35 each way for checked bags, $70 total, $15 for an overpriced airport meal because you didn't plan ahead, $5 for coffee on the plane. That's $150 in fees on top of your base ticket price, turning your $300 deal into a $450 reality. But now you know how to fight back. Book smart, plan ahead, and use the strategies I've shared to avoid these money traps. You could easily save $100 to $200 per trip just by being aware of these tactics. The truth is, airlines are betting that you won't do the research to avoid these fees. They're counting on your convenience and your lack of knowledge about their pricing tricks. But armed with this information, you can beat them at their own game and keep your hard-earned money in your pocket where it belongs. Now let me show you how to fight back against this entire system of hidden fees. The airlines are counting on you being uninformed and making emotional decisions under pressure, but armed with the right knowledge, you can beat them at their own game. First, consider getting an airline credit card, but choose wisely. Look for cards that offer free checked bags, priority boarding, and other perks that align with your travel habits. If you take more than 2 trips per year with checked bags, these cards typically pay for themselves through saved baggage fees alone. Second, avoid basic economy tickets unless you're absolutely certain your plans won't change and you don't care where you sit. The restrictions on these tickets are so severe that any small change to your plans can cost you more than you saved by booking the cheaper fare. Third, check seat maps after booking your flight. Airlines often release additional seats closer to your departure date. Log into your reservation every few days to see if better seats have become available at no extra charge. Fourth, when comparing flight prices, factor in the total cost including fees. A ticket that looks expensive might actually be cheaper once you add up all the ancillary charges on the supposedly cheaper alternative. For longer trips, consider purchasing standalone travel insurance instead of airline-specific coverage. Third-party travel insurance often provides better coverage for cancellations, delays, and other disruptions, and it typically costs less than the insurance options airlines offer during booking. Let's go back to that $300 ticket I mentioned at the beginning. Without knowing these strategies, that ticket easily becomes $500 or more by the time you actually travel. But armed with these hacks, you can keep your total cost right around that original $300 price point. Remember the family I mentioned who got hit with all those extra charges? Using these strategies, they could have saved over $150 instantly. They could have waited to select seats until check-in, brought their own snacks, used an airline credit card for free bags, and avoided the change fees by understanding the 24-hour cancellation rule. The airline industry has fundamentally changed how it makes money, and they're betting that you won't notice or won't know how to fight back. But you're smarter than that. You now have the tools to beat them at their own game and keep more money in your pocket where it belongs. Which hidden airline fee has caught you before? Drop your story in the comments. Your tip could save another traveler hundreds of dollars. And if you thought airline fees were bad, wait until you see the sneaky hotel fees I uncovered. I'll link that video right here. Subscribe now, because the more you know, the less airlines can take advantage of you. The travel industry profits when you're uninformed, but together, we can expose their tricks and keep more money in your pocket where it belongs.